Hello, happy Tuesday. Welcome back to another episode of The Practice. This show is a unrehearsed, unedited look into my workflow. I'm Stuart. I'm a 3D artist, illustrator, and I'm psyched for another week of The Practice. Apologize for a slight late start this morning. Was getting back into town from a friend's wedding halfway across the country, and little bit of a late evening, so I had to catch up on a little rest this morning. But nonetheless, we're back at it. We're going to be hitting the ground running this morning and coming up with some cool new stuff to work on. Like I'm always talking about, getting in the sketchbook and working some of your ideas out on paper is always really key, at least in my opinion. And I have some sketches that I think we're going to reference today. I'm not sure which of these wacky faces we'll be working on, but I got a couple pages of them that I've been checking out. So yeah, I think since we're running a minute late here, we'll keep the intro fairly short. Just hop in and start creating. Like I always say, I love it when folks are getting in the chat and dropping comments. If you're working on anything cool, shoot a link. We could share it with the community at large and just keep the momentum going, right? So welcome back. Excited to have you. Let's get started. So like I mentioned, I got a whole bunch of options here. I'm liking bits and pieces of some. I think I might just sort of combine them and loosely work with some of the reference here. So we'll be making it up as we go a little bit, but that's okay. In fact, some of these come together quickly. Maybe we'll try, creating a few. Maybe doing an image that has a couple of friendly faces in it. And this is the second week we're trying streaming on Periscope. So not a huge response last week, but yeah, we're building up slowly and surely, and be curious to see how much participation we get there this week. The other thing I'm not sure is how exactly to integrate that chat, because I know there is a chat feature, but I don't want to stream that video of myself while I'm also pushing the content out. I think that would obviously kill my connection speed, but you have the audio and everything like that. I'm not sure. Maybe one of you guys knows. Is there a way to separate out the Periscope chat from the live stream itself? In which case it would be great to get that up on the screen and maybe I could interact with some of the Periscope folks. But for now, that will be more of a one-way viewing experience. Got to be honest, with you guys, I'm moving a little bit slow this morning. So if I'm less than articulate, please bear with me. I guess, another thing worth mentioning as folks are starting to fill in the chat and we're starting to get this piece going is there's a whole bunch of new work from the last several months finally got up on my portfolio site, dlgnce.com. Some exciting stuff there. Some stuff I've been been wanting to share for a while, but had to, wait for the NDAs to sort of run their course and for the project to go live to the public before I could share. So yeah, go check that stuff out. Tell me what you think. I was also really excited to design a whole series of emojis and stickers for a VR social media application. So go check out Vicarious VR, especially if you're using any Androids with Daydream, the Google mobile VR platform, because that's the platform that we've launched on. And if you don't have that, you can just head over to my website and check out everything that we designed anyhow. It was a lot of fun. I got to be honest. I think that might be my true calling is silly little stickers and emoji. Hey Talis, what's up, man? Thanks for stopping by. I really struggle with this one. I'm trying to get a nice rounding thing on this pyramid. I've done this recently. I remember screwing around with the wrong tool for like 20 minutes before I got it right. I'm going to try to avoid doing that again for you guys here today. Maybe it's this. Extrude. No, that can't be it. Hmm. That's not it. Oh, you know what it is? There you go. You have to do it with, yup, can't have the polygon faces selected. You have to have the vertex edges selected. There we go. Now we're talking. All right, so there's a nice rounding shape and a little more subdivision. You know what I might do actually, since I've got a sketchbook full of kind of rough forms, They'll kind of follow suit here and just kind of just rough out a handful of faces during the time we have allotted. Maybe do a quick rendering of those, retouch it in Photoshop, and it would almost be a sketchbook of faces right in 3D. Experimentation is always key. And I tend to, a lot of times on this show, I'll do stuff that I know will work, or I've done things similar to before. So it'd be good to stretch and really sort of improvise a bit more than usual today. Hey, Candy. Thanks for stopping by again. Doing great. You? Actually, I am a little bit sleepy and maybe out of it today. I was explaining in the intro that I was away for a friend's wedding this weekend, so was traveling a bit late last night and got a little bit of a late start on the stream today. And it's funny. It's been the chat's been a little bit quiet this week, so it's not been a very chatty episode, which actually works out pretty well for my current state of mind. So anyway, how are you doing? Working on anything cool these days? Oh, nice. Great. Yeah, that Mixamo rigging is super, super useful. Actually, I used Mixamo recently for some client work where we were developing a character. I'd modeled it up, and to make the presentation a little nicer than just having the character in a T pose, I just used Mixamo to quickly rig him up and put a little weight in the character, if you know what I mean. Have them sort of leaning in one direction and just getting them out of that T pose and breathing a little bit of life to them through that motion capture that Mixamo provides. It adds a lot. Pulls a lot of the stiffness away and you know gives the character a lot of personality. And you can actually there's a whole bunch of different styles of animations to choose from over there, and obviously the way the character is presenting itself, the way it's moving, or the way it's leaning on one leg, for example, can actually alter the way the character is perceived, right? If it has a nice, for example, like a long, slow, labored walk cycle will give the character a different personality or a different feeling than kind of like a quick, perky walk cycle or jogging or just standing still or, you know, putting their hands on their hips sassily, stuff like that. So what kind of learn squared course are you doing? Is it one of those like Ashthorpe kind of dealies? I know his courses are super popular. Typically, I'd put these teeth in a cloner and get them spaced out real evenly, but I'm being lazy today. This will do just fine. It's funny that my laziness is actually making me do something that's probably the hard way, but almost done. Got it. Who teaches the motion design Learn Squared course? Nice, cool. Jorge Canedo or George Canedo, depending on the pronunciation. I'm not sure if I know him. I'll have to look him up. And I think we'll probably wind up doing one more character here, one more head. Make it a set of five. I always like to do odd numbers in groupings like these. They just always tend to read better, in my opinion. Just gonna borrow that guy's nose. Cool. Let's check it out real quick, Candy. What do you say? Oops. Huh. Cool. Looks neat. You know, if you do a walk in place, it's a lot easier to loop, and then you can just take the same frames and make a lot more out of it. That looks cool. Well played. Right, so I'm gonna do start arranging these guys and prepping for final rendering. Got an idea about texturing this thing really in a different way than I normally do, and probably relying a little bit more on Photoshop than normal. So first let's get these guys arranged. I might add a few additional compositional elements just to get them working, get it going. What I might also do, let's do this. Let's add a camera, zero it out. What I think I'm going to do is change the focal length so we can get a little bit more of a straight-on shot for these guys. Just so everyone on the edge was having a little bit of a warped look, just because. Why won't that let me zoom out? Just because the camera starts to distort things at a certain angle, which is a natural thing for the camera to do. So if you increase the focal length and zoom out, you get a little bit more of a straight-on shot, which is what I want for these dorks. I'm going to call these guys the dorks. The subsurface scattering is really nice. If you throw it in the luminance channel, you get a nice like sort of waxy effect. And with all the pieces that overlap, that's going to give us an interesting effect. But what we do need to do is add some lights to the scene and throw on GI. Let's do that. What I'm going to do in the background just to create with some compositional elements that are going to unite these dorks. Whoops. It's almost like a little cloud behind these things with faces poking out. All right, so I'm going to add a quick light or two. Let's go with skylight. Tidy this up a bit. And I find with subsurface scattering, spotlights work really well because they direct the photons in a specific direction, and that really helps the light penetrating effect read well. So I think I'm going to do is probably set up two of these things, and whoops, should probably also put a protection tag on this camera so I don't move it around like I just did. So protection, bam. Oh wow, these are really far back there. I want to get them a little closer so that we can actually maybe have some of these lighting effects kind of interact with these background elements. Of course, we need to scale them way down. Reorganize them just slightly. Otherwise, back there, I don't think they would have caught any of the photons from these spotlights. Would have been a bit dark, and the subsurface scattering, I think, would almost be a waste in that instance. Yeah, sure. This was I was just doing a bunch of kind of wacky pen drawings, just stream of consciousness, really getting some ideas out. And so I didn't follow specifically any of these, but the collection of ideas certainly influenced them. I've also thought about, possibly doing an episode or two of the practice that just is pen drawing. Would you guys be interested in seeing that? Maybe partially pen drawing episode. Maybe not the whole thing, but we could walk through some other parts of the creative process that don't involve Cinema 4D. Because I know this gets awfully cinema heavy, and even though that's one of my favorite tools, it's not my only tool, and it shouldn't be the end all and be all of the creative output. And to be honest, a love of drawing is really what led me to where I am now. I don't think if I didn't like drawing all through my childhood and high school, I don't think I ever would have gone to school for design. So maybe we should pay homage to that a little bit. All right, so here's a test rendering with the lighting. This may take a moment. That's a little weird bit right there on the tip of that nose. I think that's from when I scaled that thing and the rounded edges got distorted a little bit. I'm okay with that. That's a super simple retouch in Photoshop. What might also help is turning down the skylight and these lights a hair. Let's see what that gets us. Oops. Oops. Just felt like adding a little bit more variety to the shapes in this cloud back here. It's going to help us out a bit. All right, let's see what we got there. Oh, that's cool. So you would like to see that. All right. I'm wondering the best way to. So I don't really have a good camera setup like that. I wonder what the best way to make that happen would be. Definitely something to give some thought to. Yeah, turning that down a little bit helped. You can see some of the details were For some highlights, I guess we're getting sort of blown out and a little bit too bright. And we're going to adjust this in Photoshop, but I want to make sure I have a wide range of values in each of these faces and that we're not just losing details. You see with the lighting, right? Like seeing that little detail versus here, it gets almost entirely lost just because of the strength of the lighting there. I'm also feeling like these eyes are maybe just a bit too detailed or a bit too small or something like that. So I'm going to adjust those a hair. Try and soften it up a bit because mostly these are looking like pretty rounded forms in this piece. So maybe messing with that Fong tag will help us out. Now, this is interesting. Why? There you go. Symmetry was broken for a moment. It felt a little odd. Now, if increasing the Fong on that works, I might do that to some of these other eyelid shapes as well. And those torus shapes are working pretty well in the background, I think. But it doesn't look like they are textured. Yeah, those are feeling a little better rounded like that. So I think I'll probably follow suit with the rest of these. I might also see if the physical renderer makes a big difference in either the render time or the quality of some of this subsurface scattering. And I'm not sure if I've messed with subsurface scattering in the physical renderer yet, so that'll be cool to check out. Another thing I'm going to do in Photoshop is use like a gradient map, just add some sort of weird overall color to this. So let's go experiment with that soon. That's why I'm purposefully staying in the sort of grayscale range here anyway. So I'm gonna add some kind of psychedelic color in Photoshop. Whoa. Hmm. This is really starting to work, I think. So we're just going to do this one quick test with the physical renderer, see which we prefer, and then really time to knock out the full scale one, and I'll show you guys my thoughts on retouching, adding color in Photoshop. So yeah, it looks like this physical renderer is running a bit slower than the standard. It does look like the quality on some of these shadows is a little nicer. Well, it's grainier. What I could do to deal with some of this grain, and I've actually never invoked this feature on the stream before, but what's really cool is what's called the progressive renderer inside the physical render. So if you turn your render mode to physical here, then you go to this physical section, you take the sampler and turn it to progressive. And what that does basically, it's fairly interesting, is you hit render and it'll spit out a really low quality rendering at the scale that you want. But then it won't just render until it's complete, but it'll just keep improving the quality of that image slowly over however long you need, right? So it's cool because you can hit render and get a really low quality preview right away. But if you're liking how it's going, you can leave it be and let it ride like for as long as you need. You can let it go for an hour. You can let it go overnight. It's a pretty cool feature. Great. So I think I'm actually going to use the standard renderer though in this instance. It's a little bit faster, a little bit less grainy. The quality of light difference wasn't enough for me to care about the increase in time. So boom, here we go, off to the races. Let's fire up Photoshop too. And we're going to be using some gradient maps to add some crazy color to this. Maybe a little bit of texture with noise and some filters, but I want to really try something new. Let's fire up Photoshop. Whoa. License agreements. Okay, yeah, sure. All right, almost there. Nice. All right. Okay. Mm. Oh, that scared me for a sec. Almost had a little crash. Right. All right. So, what I had in mind for color for this was the use of what's called a gradient map. You can see it in effect already there, just in black and white. What a gradient map in Photoshop does is it assigns color to the image across a value range. And the darker or more black there is in a certain area of the image, the further along the left edge of this gradient the color will be applied. and the same with lights and the right side. So you can see since it's black and white, there's hardly any change in the image, right? But what's really cool is if we start doing this kind of thing, you can create some really kind of strange effects by mixing different colors in different orders. And I wanted to experiment a little bit with that. See, now you can see how adding these different colors in there gives us some wild looks. Yeah, and that's kind of looking cool, right? You could adjust this all day, right? And you could just absolutely go crazy and try different. Let's try a different look real quick. Make a copy of this. Oops. Go. Even that looks really awesome. You're right, Talos. That's exactly what he does. Laser beam my guy. And see, typically it looks good when you follow, you can add color but sort of follow the value range. So value meaning the amount of black added to the color. So you can see here, if I keep on the right end of this gradient, if I keep my colors sort of light, and if on the left edge of this gradient we keep the colors kind of dark, then it's going to have a little bit more of a natural look to the shading here, right? But when you start swapping those around, get some really kind of crazy effects. All right, I think I'm liking this color map a little bit more. I'll try a few other quick things, maybe adding a bit of noise. I like to add noise on a separate layer so then I can adjust it back down if it's a hair too much, which that looked like just a hair too much. Maybe we'll also do a contrast adjustment layer. Maybe throw a vibrance on top of the whole pile. So I think that's about as far as we're going to take it for this week. Something a little bit out of the ordinary, a little bit unusual, but I think that's good, right? We get tired of just doing landscapes and walk cycles all the time. So wanted to try out some new stuff. wanted to keep the texturing really simple in cinema, focus mostly on our forms and our modeling, and then really try some experimental texturing and color variations inside of Photoshop, which I think has rendered some pretty sweet results. And that gradient map feature is super useful for a lot of different things. You should try it over a photograph sometime or on other types of graphics, but I like the effect it's had on this grayscale rendering that we did. So with that, I'll thank everyone for tuning in again to another week. It's been a pleasure as always to share what I'm working on, to chat with you. A little bit of a quiet week, and that might be because I got a little bit of a late start. That's okay. We're not going to be as chatty every week as we are, some weeks prior or in the future, and that's just fine. So, in conclusion, as I always say, thanks so much. It's a pleasure sharing the workflow with you. We'll be back next week, Tuesday, 12 Pacific or 12 Eastern, 9 Pacific. I'm always sharing stuff on social media, so if you don't already, please give me a follow on Instagram or Tumblr or Twitter. All of those are at DLGNCE. I'm also on Dribbble and Behance, and just give me a look. You can find via my website, dlgnce.com, any and all of those places to check out what I'm working on. If you like this video, if you think it's useful, please give it a like and a thumbs up. Hit subscribe. We broke the 600 subscriber mark last week, which is really, really exciting. It's just really, really motivating for me to, get this work out into the world and share what I'm working on with you guys. So, can't wait to see you next week on another episode of The Practice. So I'll see you next Tuesday. And in the meantime, stay after it, stay hungry, keep making cool shit. And if you want to, let's take a look at it live on the air next week. We'll just upload it, get a link you can share, and we'll get it in front of more eyeballs, which I think is a win-win for everybody. So, thanks again. This is Stuart saying goodbye. See you next week.